Hi, everybody. Now, thank you for tuning into this stream. First things first, if you can hear me, let me know that you can. And if you can, then I'll just type it into the chat. Because I have a feeling you can. Is everything working all right? Can you guys hear me? God, I hope so. Just let me know in the chat. I can see you guys. Hey, Will Power. Hey, Tade. Hey, let's see. James, Blue Boy, Welmo. Good evening. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hello, everybody. Glad you guys can all hear me. And the audio quality is, pretty good. It's not bad. Hey, Alec. Thanks for tuning in. Excellent. Now, the reason why I ask is because in my little, what do you call it? Control room. Hey, 109 Rage. How are you? Quit joking around. The reason why I ask is because in my little control room here on YouTube, up in the top left-hand corner where it should be showing what you can see, I got nothing. It's just a static screen. It says video is unavailable. That's not good, but as long as you guys can hear me, and as long as you guys see a bulletin board on the screen with the logo in the center, then everything is all right. And you'll let me know if you can see it or not. For whatever reason, I don't have my preview. Now, the way streams ordinarily work, at least the way streams ordinarily seem to work, is that Crazy Cake Face can't stay? Bummer. Now, the way live streams typically work on YouTube is that people do not drop by just before they start. They tend to drop by shortly after they start. And obviously people are going to be dropping by throughout, but it seems like most of the people who show up a few minutes after it starts, and I don't want them to miss anything. So for you guys, for all of you guys and gals who showed up on time or just a minute after it started, why don't we just kill a few minutes, let a couple more people tune in. While we're waiting for them, let's just have a simple, quick Q&A. Just to pass, like I said, just to kill a few minutes while we're waiting for more people to tune in, and then we can get started on the topic of this stream. So I can see you guys there in the chat. Hey, Alec, glad the screen's working. If you guys have any questions, just to kill little times while people are dropping in, or if you have anything you just like to say, just so you guys know, I'll try to address as many good questions and arguments as I can. However, if anybody comments in the super chat, you are guaranteed a reply. Just so you know, the topic of this stream is has to do with one of the formats on the channel, and it also has to do with the latest video uploaded to the channel. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Now, let's see here. We have a question. Oh, I can see a question already that I'm not going to touch with a 39.5-foot pole. Caesar is asking me Trump or Hillary. That election is gone, man. It passed. Favorite book? Well, let's see. Who's asking that? Aiden is asking favorite book. That's too hard to choose, but one of them is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Favorite speaker? Guys, these questions are too difficult. And Alan is saying no personal questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alan. If any of you guys have questions related to the channel, of course, feel free to ask them. Try to refrain from personal questions. Hey, James. Let's see here. What do you have to say? Brett Howie says, hello, Daddy. Well, if I had a nickel for every person who referred to me as Daddy. SpongeBob asks this question. Did you read about Clarence Thomas's opinion reported today about overruling precedent? No, I haven't, SpongeBob, and so I'm not going to comment on that because I'm not up to speed about it. But now I know about it. Ballard asks, do you have a favorite philosopher? No, but I do have a collection. One of my favorite is Aristotle. Big surprise. But there are some people that I've referred to as philosophers, whether I ought to or not, like Benjamin Franklin and George Carlin. I do take a little liberty with the term philosopher. That's a good question, though. I can't give you just one, but that is a good question. Okay, one or two more questions. Let's see. Lyndon says, my bad. Thought you meant personal Q&A questions. No. It's okay. It's all right. No hard feelings. Nabel says hello. I say hello. Oh, here's a good question. All right, one more question, and then we'll get into the purpose of the stream. Michael asks, how long to write typical script? As you guys probably know, all the videos on the channel are all different lengths. Some are 2 or 3 minutes long, and some are over 20 minutes long. On average, how long does it? It typically takes about a day to write a page. And a minute of video typically takes a day to produce, on average. It's kind of hard to work out an average given that they're all so different. Okay, one more question here from Randy, who asks, what pushed you to study and commentate on debate/argument? To answer your question, Randy, nothing necessarily pushed me. It's just something that I naturally enjoy. There were things along the way that gave me encouragement, but most of it just comes from within. It's just something I like to do. Okay, guys. Well, thank you all for tuning into this stream today. And as you can, if you go into the description of this video, you'll find a little explanation of what this is all about. There's a couple things to cover today. One has to do with one of the formats on the channel, which is being changed. That's pretty simple and straightforward. Another thing we're going to talk about today is the latest video uploaded to the channel, or the latest video that's going to be uploaded to the channel, and how, unfortunately, Channel 4 News banned it. Blocked it. I shouldn't say banned. They blocked it all over the world because some clips from their interviews were used, and we'll get into that. And last but not least, if you guys would like, you guys can get a sneak peek of the latest video. It was re-uploaded to the channel. It has not been published, and the clips in question that Channel 4 was blocking it for are removed. So if you guys would like, we can get around to, you guys can see the latest video uploaded to the channel if you'd like. But first, we have to talk about it first. First, we have to discuss it. Now, I see there's still a Q&A going on in the chat, guys. Sorry, no questions right now. We're gonna start discussing the channel. Quick question now: how many of you are familiar with the format? Oh, Charlie is asking. Charlie is asking if one of the clips, if the Channel 4 interview that caused the video to be banned is the interview of Jordan Peterson. Yep, Charlie, that's correct. Now, how many of you guys are familiar with the format on this channel called Incorrect Answers? It was one of the newer formats that was created a couple of years ago now. The format called Incorrect Answers, the purpose of it, some of the, who is this person commenting with all the emojis? The Incorrect Answers format on this channel, basically the idea of that particular format is to address a particular answer to a particular question and explain or demonstrate why the particular answer to the particular question is not a good answer. Now, that's a very specific format. It's a very focused format, but unfortunately, it's a little too focused for YouTube. I'm sure, as some of you guys might understand and probably have thought yourself before, a lot of the videos in the Incorrect Answers series confused a lot of people. Not necessarily confused, but they sort of annoyed a lot of people. People, take for example, a video entitled, Why Should We Vote For You? Or a video entitled, What is White Privilege? For instance. There was a video on the channel, I think it's unlisted now, but there was a video on the channel called What is White Privilege? And basically, the only thing that happens in that video is that the video observes an interview that DeRay McKesson, who's an activist with Black Lives Matter, he went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert asked him to explain what white privilege was. and he gave a very vague and ambiguous and ultimately useless answer. And so a video was made for this channel. The title of it was "What is White Privilege?" And okay, all right. Who's spamming the chat here, and how do we remove them? This is getting annoying. Full here, watch here. Come on, man, knock it off. I've never blocked anybody in the chat before, and I certainly don't want to start today, but this is getting ridiculous. Does anybody know how to block spam in the chat? I've never done it before. I don't know how to do this. And I'm not, frankly, I don't want to try to find out during this stream because I just want to conduct the stream, for crying out loud. I just want to talk to you guys. Oh well, I'll figure it out. Oh, this is getting ridiculous. It's a bot. Somebody says it's a bot. That wouldn't surprise me at all. God damn it. Okay, all right, guys. I'm sorry. Bear with me. I'm gonna teach myself how to see if I can block certain users. This has never happened before. I've been doing streams now for about a year, give or take, and I've never had this problem before. Let's see. Somebody says like there's a button to click on the bottom. James says, I think you can promote people to mods to handle for you. That's a great idea, although I don't know how to do that, and again, I'm kind of hesitant to figure out how to do that right now. There they go again. God, you know what? One bot can really ruin this for everyone else, can't it? Setup. Details. Ingestion? Huh? Okay, live chat. Let's see here. Allow live chat to replay. Enable live chat. Of course. Enable slow mode. I don't think that's going to fix anything. Enable members only chat. No. Not at the moment. Moderation. To edit moderators, blacklisted words, and more, visit your community settings. I don't want to do that right now. I'm trying to host a live stream. Okay. All right. I think I figured out. I think I might have just figured out how to do this. And aren't you glad? Because this is really just getting in the way of what we came for. Okay, I see some of you guys in the chat have apparently you guys are reporting them for spam. If that's true, I thank you very much. I see that some of you guys here are reporting these people for spam, and I'm sorry you have to do it. I'd do it myself if only I knew how. If I've ever blocked anybody from commenting on this channel, it has been a long, long time. Thankfully, I haven't had to do it hardly ever at all. All right, well, let's just get back to the subject. God damn it, they're still there. I'm very sorry, guys. I don't know how to remove certain users from the chat. I'm gonna find out after this stream. For now, we're just gonna have to tolerate them. God, that is annoying. All right. So, as I was saying, there's a format on this channel called Incorrect Answers, and the whole purpose of the format is just to focus on one particular answer to one particular question, and the title of the videos is whatever the question is. Well, this format sort of let a lot of people down because people would be clicking on videos called "Why should we vote for you?" or "What is white privilege?" or "Why be accepting of homosexuals?" stuff like that. And people would be clicking on these videos expecting a much more broad analysis of the subject. For instance, if somebody clicked on a video entitled "What is white privilege?", they would be clicking on that video with the expectation that the video would explain what white privilege actually was. And that's not what they would get. What they would get would be one guy giving one bad explanation as to what white privilege was, and they would walk away from the video fairly disappointed. So, finally, the idea was kicked around for months and months and months now for changing that. Oh, God, someone just told me how to block somebody. Hover over their channel, click on the three dots to the right, and remove them. Thank you, Mr. Who said that? Mr. Trident. Mr. Trident? Thank you for that advice, Mr. T. Can I call you Mr. T? There we go. I finally learned that was the first time I ever had to remove spam comments from the chat. Never had to do that before. Thank you very much, Mr. T, for sorting that out for me. Yeah, so basically the format on the channel, Incorrect Answers, is a little too focused for YouTube. It's not really nice to viewers to give a video a title that's very broad and interesting question, and then have the video focus on one man or one woman who gave one bad answer to one question. So finally, just recently, the format has been amended. Not necessarily changed completely. Thank you again, Mr. T. The format has not been completely changed. It's just been amended. The title has been changed from Incorrect Answers to Questions and Answers. So that's the least I can say. The title of it has been changed. It's not called Incorrect Answers anymore. Now it's called Questions and Answers. What does that mean? Why is it called Questions and Answers? Well, from now on, that format is going to be used to instead of focusing just on bad answers to specific questions. Now it is going to focus on just any sort of conversation or any sort of argument or any sort of answers that are given to any sort of question. So basically, the format has been broadened out. And to give you an example of where the idea to do this came from, how many of you are familiar? Here's a question for you. How many of you guys are familiar with the video on this channel about Kellyanne Conway? The title of the video is called Not Answering the Question, and it's a 25-minute long video, and it just focuses on Kellyanne Conway dodging questions. How many of you guys are familiar with that video or have seen that video? That video was the oh, for God's sake. I'm sorry, there's still spam comments in the chat. Yeah. I don't like birds says love that one. Leo says he's familiar with that. Yeah, if you guys have seen that video, and I hope you guys like it. I certainly had fun making it, even though I kind of pulled out my hair because Kellyanne Conway, basically anybody dodging questions is annoying. But if you guys, for anyone who's familiar with that video, the video on this channel called Not Answering the Question, which is basically just about a case study of Kellyanne Conway dodging questions, that video, as you guys can understand, kind of walked outside of the format a bit. The format of Incorrect Answers was to just focus on one bad answer to one specific question. But I got the idea to make a video that just focused on Kellyanne Conway dodging questions in general, and I decided to use the Incorrect Answers format for that video. Well, it didn't really feel right. It kind of felt like the left shoe on the right foot, and so that's when I started kicking around the... Zenman says, epic video. I'm glad you guys liked that video. I'm looking at the chat, and I can see a lot of you guys are expressing that you really liked that video, and I'm glad. When that video was made, that's when the idea started getting kicked around that maybe the Incorrect Answers format should be changed to something that's basically just to something that's more broad. Something more broad than just focusing on incorrect answers. Something that focuses on any conversation in which questions are being asked and answers are being given. Inverse Agonist says, I think the title of that video highlights a distinction I think you should make more often. Rhetorical tactics versus logical consistency. Yeah, good point. So, finally, with the latest video on the channel, the Incorrect Answers format has been changed to Questions and Answers, and now the format is going to focus on any answer that's given to any question in general, any interview style, any argument given to a particular concern. It's going to be much more broad now. Lime Green something says, to answer your question, you'll see I'm a subscriber and have seen some of your videos. There's no denying that there's been some video watching going on. Thank you very much. So, that brings us to the latest video uploaded to the channel. The latest video uploaded to the channel is entitled, "When Should You Leave an Interview?" Frankly, it seems like the perfect first video for this new format. After all, for the new format called Questions and Answers, the first video is called "When Should You Leave an Interview?" And it's pretty straightforward. I don't need to explain it, but I will anyway. The purpose of the video is to analyze under what circumstances would you seem justified leaving an interview. That's the purpose of the video, and throughout it's like 18 or 19 minutes long. It was a lot of fun to put together, and it focuses on a half a dozen examples of people walking out of interviews. Just so you guys in the chat know, whoever these spam accounts are who keep spamming the chat, I have reported them. And here's a button: hide this user. There we go. Okay, I just figured out how to hide these spam accounts. So fortunately, that'll keep them from popping up in the chat. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm sorry that they kept these. I'm sorry that there's spam in the chat. Hopefully, we just dealt with them. SpongeBob says that video was so good it was hard to watch. Yes, SpongeBob referring to the video on this channel called "Not Answering the Question," which is about Kellyanne Conway dodging questions. Here we have a question from Glitch in the System. What's the biggest pet peeve you have in regards to how people debate a point or make a counter-argument? I don't really have a biggest pet peeve, but if I had to pick one pet peeve to answer your question, it would be when somebody... this doesn't really have to do with the argument necessarily. It has to do with the presentation. A particular pet peeve, personally, is when people present their argument with total confidence. And that is kind of a general point. But basically, anytime anybody presents a point of view and they seem to demonstrate no doubt, no second guessing, they demonstrate confidence to such a degree where it seems like they're not open to entertaining the possibility that they've made a mistake. That's a pet peeve. That's something that irritates me. But there's always going to be people like that, and it doesn't really annoy me that much. It's just something I don't appreciate. Now Mario here in the chat, Mario says that using different clips from different news interviews would make you susceptible to multiple copyright claims. Thank you for bringing that up, Mario. Now, let's get to, as I was saying, we were talking about the latest video that was produced for this channel. It's called When Should You Leave an Interview? And in it, there are a half a dozen examples of people walking out of interviews. Now, I'll have you know that there are probably a dozen different clips from a dozen different news networks used in this video. There are clips from ABC, there are clips from the BBC, there are clips from CBS News, there are clips from CNN, from some local news networks. There were clips used from at least a half a dozen news networks. But none of them claimed copyright on the video. None of them made any copyright claims. The only news network that claimed copyright on the latest video that was uploaded to this channel was Channel 4. They claimed copyright on both their interview of Robert Downey Jr., which went so well, and their interview of Jordan Peterson, which also went well. Rives, hopefully one of those pronunciations was correct. Hey Rion, however you pronounce that. Hey CA, how are you today? Love your videos a lot. Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for stopping by the chat today. All right, guys, buckle up. We're going to talk about the copyright details now. When I went to the info section on the latest video that was uploaded to the channel, as you can see, entitled "When Should You Leave an Interview?" The video was not only demonetized but blocked worldwide. Now, as you can see here, as you can see in this image, the video was demonetized for using clips from their interview with Robert Downey Jr. Back in 2015, one of Channel 4 News' correspondents or reporters or whatever you want to call him, Christian Guru Murthy. He interviewed Robert Downey Jr. He asked a series of inappropriate questions, and eventually Robert Downey Jr. got up and walked out. So naturally, this was used in the video for this channel. Channel 4 News claimed copyright on that. They're a news network, for crying out loud. A news network claimed copyright of a friggin' interview they gave of a movie star, and for that, the video was demonetized. But as you can see above that, this video used, I think, like 35 seconds from Channel 4's interview of Jordan Peterson. When Kathy Newman interviewed Jordan Peterson, and for using clips from that interview, which again went so well and made Channel 4 News look like a very honorable news network, Channel 4 News claimed copyright on that as well, and they blocked it worldwide. Now, fortunately, I see someone in the chat going by the name of Teddy says to delete it and re-upload it. That would not work, Teddy. If the video was deleted and re-uploaded, the same thing would happen all over again. Now, unfortunately. Now, there is a system in place on YouTube that allows for disputes and appeals, thankfully. For those of you who don't know, this is not the first time that Channel 4 News has given this channel a hard time. There's another video on this channel that analyzed the Channel 4 News interview of Jordan Peterson, the Kathy Newman interview of Jordan Peterson, and Channel 4 News claimed copyright of that too. And just for those who don't know, it was disputed, and Channel 4 News basically didn't do anything. They didn't continue their dispute, and they didn't release it. They basically did nothing, and they let their copyright claim expire. So it took 30 days. For those of you who don't know, when a copyright owner makes a copyright claim, and the channel and the YouTube channel disputes it, the copyright owner has 30 days to reply. They can either continue to insist that their claim was valid, they can release their claim, or they can do nothing, in which case it expires in 30 days. And that's what happened the last time. The last time Channel 4 claimed copyright of a video that was uploaded to this channel, it was challenged, it was disputed, and they didn't do anything, and it expired after 30 days. I'm happy to say that that video is available for viewing all around the world, and it was monetized. So here we go again. The latest video that was uploaded to the channel contains clips from 2 Channel 4 interviews. Channel 4 News, N-E-W-S, apparently they consider themselves a news network. The latest video uploaded to the channel features clips from 2 Channel 4 interviews, one with Robert Downey Jr., and one with Jordan Peterson, and for that, they claimed the video, demonetized it, and blocked it worldwide. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys this, not just so you know where we are so far, but so you also know why you will not be able to view the video immediately. Shortly, like tomorrow or the next day, it will be. The officially completed video will be re-uploaded, but you guys probably won't be able to watch it right away because of this. Now, just so you guys know, the video, what you're looking at right now, what you're looking at on the screen, the video that was blocked, that was demonetized and blocked, that wasn't the official video. That was sort of a rough rendering. The reason why it was uploaded to the channel was just so members could view it. You see? That wasn't the official video. The video that got demonetized and blocked, as you can see on the screen, that video, that it didn't have the ending credits. It didn't have the right audio levels necessarily. There was still a little editing left to do. So that wasn't the official video. That was just sort of a rough rendering. So it's the official video, which was finally completed today. That's going to be uploaded again. And it's going to get copyright claimed again. And that video, those copyright claims are going to be disputed. And just so you guys know, it's possible. Who knows what's going to happen? It's possible that Channel 4 News will do to this channel what they did the last time, and they just won't do anything. They'll disregard this channel's dispute. They'll let the claim expire after 30 days, and that'll be good. If they let their copyright claim expire, it means that the video can be viewed and it can be monetized. Unfortunately, it will be 30 godforsaken days until that happens. So it could be a month until this video is published on the channel. And I'm very sorry to say that. It's very unfortunate that that's the case. But that's the case. The least that I can say is that this channel is going to dispute those copyright claims. So, let me go back to the chat here and see what some of you guys had to say. XTZTXMI, that's quite a name, says the problem with YouTube's copyright system is that it's not reviewed by YouTube, but the claimer. Yeah, that's right. For those who don't know, the way the copyright system on YouTube works is that YouTube does not get involved. If they give copyright owners the discretion to claim whatever they want. And when a copyright owner abuses that power, as they often do, and as Channel 4 News has done to this channel, when a copyright owner abuses that power, YouTube provides ways in which a YouTube channel like this one can dispute that claim. Unfortunately, that dispute goes to the copyright owner. And if they decide their claim was valid, they can reinstate it. Now, at which point the YouTube channel can appeal that rejected dispute, but it goes right back to the copyright owner all over again. So it's a very frustrating system, and YouTube basically does not get involved. They do not play the middleman. And I understand why, but it makes this a very frustrating process. Especially when the copyright owner is abusing their power. Can you believe it? Channel 4 News is a news network. They're a news network. They conducted interviews with public figures. Can you believe that they're claiming copyright? A news network is claiming copyright of their interviews. This is pathetic. This is utterly, utterly pathetic. Sorry, don't want to sound like I'm in a bad mood. I do want you guys to enjoy stopping by the stream today. But nevertheless, this is frustrating. Now, Darker Apollo 55 asks, or doesn't ask, just says, if you didn't know, there are companies that have automatic systems that find anything they can own and automatically claim. Fun stuff. Yep. Yeah, Apollo, that's a good point. SpongeBob says, have you tried editing by adding watermarks and adjusting audio? No. Sorry, no, SpongeBob. We're not going to do any of that. We're not going to horse around and flip the video or zoom in and put put snowflakes over it. We're not doing anything like that. We shouldn't have to do anything like that. The footage in question, the footage that caused the video to be blocked, that footage came from a news network. And it's an interview. All right? And the purpose and the reason why it was used was for the purpose of criticism/commentary. It was fair use. And so it's going to be fairly used. And if anybody wants to claim it, then this channel is going to dispute it. It's as simple as that. James says, why don't you call it what it is? Bullying? I wouldn't describe it as bullying, although I can see the connection. It's not bullying. It's just powerful entities flexing their muscles, using their power for right or wrong, and in this case, wrong. Someone else named James says, sorry, CA. I know you've had problems with this in the past, too. Must be super frustrating. Apparently, James has stuff that has been blocked on copyright grounds as well. I'm sorry to hear that, James. Or to read it, that is. Keep up the good work. Cheers. Thank you, James. Thank you, James, and thank you, James. Both Jameses. Thank you. Okay. Scott Powers gave a buck and then he gave another buck. Thank you, Scott. Thank you twice. God, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry for all the spam in the chat. I'm trying to hide it and block it as best as I can. It's not easy, but it's possible. Okay, let's see. Dakota Bazarn or something. Dakota says, I could swear that a really early video of yours, you had a British accent. No, never had a British accent. Never, not on purpose anyway. Dakota goes on to say, love your videos. I'm trying to argue like juror number 8 in all my arguments. Thanks. You're welcome, and thank you, Dakota. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks for trying to argue like juror number 8. It's a noble task. Noble endeavor indeed. Okay, now Charlie asks, can you show us the video here on the stream? Yes, I can. I don't know if I'm running a risk in doing so, but I can, and I'd like to, so I'm going to. Somebody named David says, in response to the spam in the chat, David says, it's a sign your channel has grown. Yep. Yeah, one of the perks of success. Okay, now, for anyone who's just tuned into this stream, let me get you up to speed now. For anyone who's just tuned in the last few minutes, one of the formats on this channel, called Incorrect Answers, has been changed. It's no longer called Incorrect Answers. It's now going to be called Questions and Answers. The format is now going to focus on any arguments or any answers to any questions whatsoever, whether they're right or wrong. It's basically going to focus on any arguments that are packaged in the form of an answer to a question. Hey, Alec Feather, how are you? So that's the first thing. One of the formats on the channel has been changed from Incorrect Answers to Questions and Answers. The latest video that has been produced for this channel, entitled When Should You Leave an Interview, is finished. It's complete and was uploaded to this channel, although it wasn't published yet. And when it was, Channel 4 News, unfortunately, claimed copyright on not one, but 2 of their interviews, which were featured in the video. They are abusing their copyright privileges. Their content was fairly used. Copyright laws permit the use of copyright laws obviously allow for the use of footage from news networks for the purpose of criticism/commentary. It's fair use, so those copyright claims will be disputed. In the meantime, before the video is ultimately published, and before those copyright claims are disputed, it can be played, and is going to be played in this stream. For those of you who are tuned in, and if you guys are tuned into this stream, I'd like to think you're in for a real treat, because the latest video to the channel, which has not been published yet, and which unfortunately has been copyright claimed. Unfortunately, it's been copyright claimed, and those claims are going to be disputed. The latest video produced for the channel, which has not been published, is about to be played in this stream. Now, I'm obviously not going to be speaking during the video, but I will be keeping an eye on the chat, and I will be answering as many questions as you have within the chat. After the video, we'll come right back to the bulletin board, and I'll come back to the microphone, and we can talk about the video. Here's a quick question from XTZ something. Thanks for the videos. They're great. I'm trying to always argue like juror number 3. That's what I was supposed to do, right? Yeah, very funny. Okay, guys, is everyone ready to watch the latest video produced for the channel? The very first video produced for the questions and answers series, which unfortunately was claimed by Channel 4 News, and I hope by streaming it now doesn't get the channel in any trouble. God, I hope nothing happens. Are you guys ready to watch it? because I'm ready to stream it. Ronaldo Diaz, thank you for showing the video on the stream. I don't think I'd be able to wait a full month for another video of yours. Yeah, man, I'm very, very, very sorry that Channel 4 News is giving this channel trouble, but it is. Okay, guys, here we go. Without further ado, here is When Should You Leave an Interview? Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Is ultimately... no, there was no sound. God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm very sorry about that. I don't know what the hell would have went wrong. I tested this to make sure that the sound was working earlier, and something went wrong. Okay, guys, I'm gonna try to figure out what's wrong with the audio, because I really want to get this video playing for you, so you can enjoy it. But I'm looking at the chat right now. You guys are behind by about 25 or 30 seconds, unfortunately, so I can see all you guys freaking out 30 seconds ago about the audio. By the time you guys can hear me speaking, which is now for you, I'm going to bring the video back up, and I'm going to play around with the audio settings, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. And you guys let me know when you can hear the video, okay? I'm going to start playing it again. Hey, James. I'm going to start playing the video again, and you guys let me know when the audio... I'm going to change the audio settings. You guys let me know when you can hear it again. Okay? Okay, excellent. Here we go. Is that appropriate? Could you guys still not hear it? Ah, man, this is awful. I'm so sorry, guys. I do not know what's wrong. I've done this before. I've streamed videos on this channel before, but I never had this issue. All right, let's try again. An interview is a public or published conversation in which questions are asked and answers are given. It can be a very useful way of communicating opinions and information. However, conducting an interview is a lot easier said than done.
I'll ask you the standard question. You know?
Standard question.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake?
Sometimes interviews end prematurely when somebody simply gets up and leaves. The question is, when is that appropriate? When should you leave an interview? It's a tricky question to answer because when you decide to walk out of an interview, it isn't really up to you whether or not it was justified. All right, it's working now. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, now that the sound is working, let's start it from the beginning, so that you hear the entire thing. All right, guys. See you on the other side. An interview is a public or published conversation in which questions are asked and answers are given. It can be a very useful way of communicating opinions and information. However, conducting an interview is a lot easier said than done.
I'll ask you the standard question. You know,
Standard question.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake?
Sometimes interviews end prematurely when somebody simply gets up and leaves. The question is, when is that appropriate? When should you leave an interview? It's a tricky question to answer because when you decide to walk out of an interview, it isn't really up to you whether or not it was justified. Obviously, it is ultimately your decision to leave, but remember, an interview is a public conversation. People are watching, or listening, or soon to be reading it. So you don't want to leave an interview if it's going to be a bad look, if it's going to make you look snobbish, or thin-skinned, or a hypocrite. In other words, you don't want public opinion to be against you. You'd want your walkout to be a good look. So, what does that look like?
But he's becoming a much more likable character as well, isn't he?
I suppose.
A better man.
Yeah, he's becoming a better guy.
You know, in a way that you are as well, I suppose.
Sure.
I mean, what I'd really like to ask you about a quote you gave to the New York Times. And I don't want to pry, so if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But what you said to the New York Times once was,
in April of 2015, Robert Downey Jr. was interviewed on Channel 4 News. The interviewer was Christian Guru Murthy, and the purpose of this interview was to promote the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron. So it was equal parts unexpected and inappropriate when Guru Murthy asked Downey Jr. personal questions about his troubled past. These questions included the time he spent in prison, his political opinions, his relationship with his father, and his past drug abuse.
what you said to the New York Times once was, it was after your incarceration.
Things that you said 5-7 years ago, or things you said in an interview that made sense to you at the time, I could pick that apart for 2 hours and be no closer to the truth than I'd be giving you some half-assed answer right now.
Does that mean you're not a liberal, or that you came out of prison not being a liberal?
Are we promoting a movie? To me, the thing is that I'm certainly not going to backpedal on anything I've said. That just happened to be my opinion. That's the nice thing, is you can have opinions and they kind of change and flow.
You've talked in other interviews again about your relationship with your father and the role of all of that in the dark periods you entered, and taking drugs and drinking and all of that.
I'm sorry, I really don't. What are we doing?
Well, I'm just asking questions, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
I'm sorry.
This is an example of when you should leave an interview. If the interview has a very specific purpose and the interviewer deliberately asks questions that are not relevant to that purpose whatsoever, leaving the interview would be a good look, because most people are going to sympathize with you.
This guy sat down and he's acting like it's 60 Minutes. And he's like, oh, so tell me about the time when you're on drugs and this. It's like, no. I'm going to talk about Ultron, stupid. Yeah. It's like the fact that he's bringing that up.
It's also a good look to stay put after you would want to leave an interview. Downey Jr. could have conceivably jumped out of his chair after the first irrelevant question, but he didn't. He hangs in there and attempts to coax the interviewer away from his inappropriate inquiry. And even though he wasn't able to do that, the effort he made could have only made him appear more sympathetic than if he had just stormed out immediately. Now, not all public figures are entertainers, and personal questions are not always irrelevant. Some public figures are politicians. In July of 2011, the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, was asked if he was going to send his children to public or private school. It was a question that the mayor didn't want to answer for two directly related reasons. A, he's a champion of the public school system, and B, he intended to send his children to private school. So, when he was asked this question, this was his response.
My children are not an instrument of me being mayor. My children are my children. And that may be news for you, and that may be new for you, Marianne. But I want you to understand, no, you have to understand this. I'm making this decision as a father.
I have so many more questions to ask.
And I look forward to our future interview.
Just take it 1 second. One please.
I'm done.
Just as before, the interviewer asked a personal question and the interviewee didn't want to answer it. But this time, the question was relevant. The mayor of Chicago is an elected official who has authority over the public schools that many people have no choice but to send their children to. So as far as public opinion goes, the mayor of any city sending their children to private school is already a bad look. Getting up and leaving an interview when asked about it only makes it worse, because it implies that Mayor Emanuel knew that it was a bad look. You probably noticed a few other differences between Emanuel and Downey Jr. Emanuel hardly made an effort to coax the interviewer away from the subject. He just flatly rejected the question and then got up and left. He also didn't make a very graceful exit. In terms of gaining sympathy, taking off the microphone and dropping it onto the floor doesn't pay a lot of dividends. So while both of these men left an interview for the same reason, their status as a public figure, the relevance of the question, how they responded, and how they left were all different, and thus public opinion was different. It's worth mentioning that not everyone who walks out of an interview does so because they feel backed into a corner. Some people will walk out of an interview as a form of protest. Once again, the question will be, is it a good look or is it a bad look? Will public opinion be on your side if you leave an interview in protest, or will it be against you? In October of 2017, Jesse Lee Peterson interviewed Stevie Bobby on The Fallen State. Even though their conversation managed to last for 20 minutes, it came to an abrupt and untimely end.
You know how there are transgenders? Let me do this. Transgenders now, and they're confused about their identity. So you heard of Bruce Jenner, right? Mm-hmm. We all know Bruce is a man. Well, he took off the body part. Where you going?
I'm leaving.
Why are you leaving?
Because.
What?
Because what you're saying is extremely offensive, and I'm not going to sit here for it.
Come and tell me why.
Nope.
You're running?
Yep.
Well, she left.
It isn't always the interviewee who leaves in protest. Sometimes it's the interviewer. Sometimes it's multiple interviewers. In October of 2010, Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg walked off The View in protest of the guest that day, Bill O'Reilly.
Muslims killed us on 9/11.
Oh my God! That is.
Muslims didn't kill us on 9/11? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, extremists
what religion were they in?
What religion was Mr. McVeigh? Mr. McVeigh was an extremist as well, and he killed people.
70% of the country.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here. I don't. I'm outraged by that statement.
You're outraged about Muslims killed us on 9/11.
How good of an idea is this? Well, for the person walking off the show, it certainly does communicate their opinion that certain statements should not be tolerated, and you can expect some people who agree politically with those who leave interviews in protest to approve of it, but there is an argument to be made against this. And the argument is that it's not up to those engaged in an interview to decide what is and is not offensive. Sabotaging a public conversation because you personally disagree with or personally dislike the person you're talking to is a disservice to the audience. It's the audience's responsibility to generate their own opinions, and so walking out of an interview because of a difference of opinion is arguably patronizing. It interferes, or at the very least, attempts to interfere with the audience's ability to draw their own conclusions. And on that basis alone, it seems to be a bad look.
I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion journalist?
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
Okay, so you're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want to point out that I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro, are you a member of...
In May of 2019, the BBC's Andrew Neil interviewed conservative commentator Ben Shapiro. The interview was, in essence, a combination of everything that went wrong in all of the previous examples we've looked at. the interviewee suspecting that the interviewer has bad intentions, the interviewee expressing their rejection of the questions, the interviewee going on the offensive, turning the whole conversation into a rhetorical fistfight, and the interviewee finally leaving in protest of the interviewer. All of that while communicating via satellite 8 time zones away, and that surely didn't help.
You know, I'm in the middle of a book tour, and we're doing a lot of book interviews. And the producers for BBC approached us, and they said, you know, we want to have you on to discuss the book. And I figured, okay, normal book interview, even if it gets, you know, a little bit antagonistic, that's totally fine. It was a lazy decision on my part. I didn't know anything about the guy who was interviewing me. I heard him in my ear, obviously. I have no idea who Andrew Neil is. I don't follow British politics all that closely, truthfully. Yeah. So we sit down, and we start the interview. And his opening question is really antagonistic.
The trouble began when Mr. Neil asked 2 consecutive questions, both of which gave Mr. Shapiro the impression that the interviewer was up to no good. The first question implied that the right has no new ideas to offer.
I'm interested that you think there's a thought movement inside the Republican Party. I mean, haven't the Conservatives run out of ideas in America? All the new policies, the Medicare for all.
The second question described policies that Shapiro is in favor of as a return to the Dark Ages.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages, Georgia, new abortion laws.
And so represented the first snafu. The interviewee was convinced that the interviewer was acting in bad faith.
There's no question he was badly motivated, right? I mean, the entire line of questioning was, you're a bad person, I'm going to smear you, you're a bad person. If I start to answer, he interrupts, you're a bad person, over and over and over.
It's easy for many people to sympathize with this. As we've already observed, there are dishonorable, manipulative members of the mainstream media. So when Ben Shapiro suspected that he was interacting with one, the result was the second issue with this interview, the interviewee rejecting the questions.
But haven't you all just really coarsened public discourse in America and exacerbated its divisions?
You know, it's kind of odd to be hearing about me coarsening public discourse when you call policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back to the Dark Ages, sir. I hope you're having fun, by the way, going through every old tweet that I've ever sent to try and do gotcha questions. But if you'd like to have a discussion about my general philosophy or things I've done in, say, like the past 5 years, why don't we do that? How about that?
But so much of what you've said in the past would seem to turn its back on Judeo-Christian culture.
You're lecturing me on Judeo-Christian culture after you call the pro-life position barbaric?
I just asked you a question.
You can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
As we observed with Rahm Emanuel's interview, rejecting relevant questions is not a good look. It looks like a dodge. Mr. Shapiro may have had good answers for all of these questions, but when he didn't give them, it looked like he didn't have them. What he does give instead is offense. The third issue with this interview, the interviewee goes on the offensive, forcing the interviewer to be defensive.
You as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest? Seriously, it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it.
Well, I assumed this person is on the left. Well, it turns out that Andrew Neil is apparently famously on the right there. So mistake number one, didn't know who he is, and that was a mistake. It seems to me that simply going through and finding lone things that sound bad out of context and then hitting people with them is a way for you to make a quick buck on BBC off the fact that I'm popular and no one has ever heard of you.
There are not many bucks to be made on the BBC, unlike American broadcasting, Mr. Shapiro.
I say, I'm famous and you're not, which is always a bad move, always a dumb move. And of course, I regret that one. Yeah. That was stupid also. I'll freely admit, this one went like crap for me. I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll say goodbye.
Getting up and walking out, I don't regret for a heartbeat. I do not regret it for a second. The fact is that he was badly motivated. He was looking for the gotcha moment. He felt he got the gotcha moment just by asking all these questions and refusing to listen to the answers. And I felt like, you know what? I do have a basic rule, and this is true in any conversation. I've said this 1,000 times in my speeches. My basic rule is when someone is intent on defaming your character, you have no obligation to continue with the conversation. That's what he was doing.
Right.
And so I was out.
To Ben Shapiro's credit, he has provided two things after this interview which are valuable. One is an admission that it wasn't his finest hour, and the other is his argument for leaving the interview.
When someone is intent on defaming your character, you have no obligation to continue with the conversation.
This explains how he felt, and it explains why he left. However, there is a drawback within this particular argument. Intent can be very difficult to prove, and if you can't prove it, then you're just making an assumption. What's to keep anyone else from assuming that Andrew Neil was not badly motivated, but merely playing the devil's advocate?
My job is to question those who have strong views and put an alternative to them.
Would you suggest that a late-term abortion is brutal?
I'm not taking a
Is it
view
a
on
brutal
this issue.
policy
I'm
to allow
asking
late-term
you the
abortion?
questions.
Sir, you just suggested the pro-life position is inherently brutal and terrible.
The point, I don't want to return to, but the point was to put a position for you to reply to it. And I thought we covered that.
That's
Another drawback is that this argument doesn't seem to take into consideration public opinion. Just because the interviewee has a negative opinion of the interviewer doesn't mean that the public does. And if the interviewee wants public opinion to turn against the interviewer, there's an argument to be made that leaving is not as effective as staying and continuously correcting the record. An example famously set by Professor Jordan Peterson, who could have walked out of this interview with Cathy Newman, but he didn't.
The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And so does high negative emotion.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that female traits don't predict success.
But I didn't say that intelligence
and
wasn't. I didn't say that
do.
intelligence and conscientiousness.
Well, you were saying that
weren't
intelligence
female
and
traits.
conscientiousness by implication are not female traits.
No.
I mean, that's very dangerous territory.
I'm not saying that at all.
Are women less intelligent than men? by and large?
No, they're not. No, the data on that's pretty clear.
Professor Peterson must have had his own opinion of Newman, but he didn't state his opinion during the interview. He let the public have their own opinion. Downey Jr. must have had his own opinion of Guru Murthy, but he never stated it during the interview either. By contrast, Shapiro did state his opinion of Neil during his interview, and this, more than just being a bad look, might just be the worst look for anybody participating in an interview. Declaring the correct opinion to have of an interview is, among other things, manipulative. It's a manipulation of public opinion. A rather ironic reaction to somebody whom you believe is trying to manipulate public opinion themselves. You have to win public opinion to your side. You can't just declare that the other side doesn't deserve it. If you are ever participating in an interview and you decide to leave, that much is your decision. But because an interview is a public conversation, public opinion ultimately gets to decide whether or not you were justified. So if you suspect that public opinion will turn against you if you leave, it's in your own best interests to stay put and continue entertaining the questions.
You know, dude, honestly, I can't take this interview. I'm out. I gotta be gone.
All
I'll catch you later.
right. Is this
We're done.
Is this another walk-off?
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was certainly a lot of fun. It was certainly a lot of fun producing that one. Yes, of course, it featured Ben Shapiro. The first half of the video focused on a handful of other examples, but the main example and the focus of the second half was Mr. Shapiro's recent interview on the BBC. So, now that you guys have, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully all of you, if not most of you, tuned into the live stream before it started, so you saw the whole thing. And now that now that you have seen it, let's take 20-30 minutes or so just to talk about it before calling it a night. I'm just so I don't need to tell you guys this, but I'm looking at the chat right now and I can see what you guys are saying. Wonderful video, great video, 11 out of 10, great stuff. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed these videos. 20 out of 10. Oh, goodness gracious. Thank you guys. Thank you. It's such a joy putting these things together. So I can only be happy that you like them. Okay, now, if anyone, like I said, let's take a good 20 or 30 minutes or so to discuss it. I know you guys only saw it once, and you didn't do any pausing or rewinding, but hopefully you do have something to say about it. If there are any questions or counter-arguments, make them known. I'll keep my eye on the chat and try to address as many good questions and arguments as I can. But just so you know, if anybody comments in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Now, Rianne Rinaldo says, if this is what I'd have to wait a month for, I'd have gladly waited for production quality like this. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Prickly Biscuit says, I've noticed the lack of that horrid rewinding sound you used to use in your more recent videos. Yeah, Prickly Biscuit, just in case you're curious, and you probably are since you brought it up, there are, in some older videos on this channel, there's this sort of stock rewinding sound effect that just sort of sounds like, you know, and what I started doing recently was using the original audio. Simple as that. Basically, I would just take the original audio of the video, play it backwards, and speed it up. And, you know, the person talking would just sound like a chipmunk, but at least it was original and not some stock sound effect. Okay. Let's see. MN asks, what softwares do you use to make your videos? The Adobe products are used to produce the videos on this channel. Adobe Audition, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere. Okay, now, 109 Rage gives his or her review of the video 4 out of pi. Chris Young says, I think counter-arguments just earned a patron. You've done an amazing job at more unbiased videos. By the way, thank you, Chris. Thank you. Hey, look, whether you become a member or not, thank you. Thanks just for stopping by and watching. I gotta, as with everyone else on YouTube, you gotta earn your audience. You have to earn people's attention and respect. So, thank you for giving it. Mark says, nicely done, good examples. Carlos says, love your content so much. Let's see here. Thanks for the beautiful video. A Russian spy says, thanks for the beautiful video. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, a quick Q&A, if anyone would like to, as appropriate. Oh, by the way, just to repeat it again, for anyone who was tuned into this live stream before the video, that video, When Should You Leave an Interview, that video is the first video produced for the new format on this channel called Questions and Answers. That gave you a pretty good impression of what it would be like, does it not? Again, the old format on this channel, the Incorrect Answers series, that format focused on specific questions and only explained why certain answers were bad. This newer format called Questions and Answers, this format is much more broad, and the video that you just watched is an example of the sort of content that's going to be produced within that format. So I hope you guys are excited for not just this one video, but for the format in general. I certainly hope you are. SpongeBob says, I cannot support the mayor's walkout. The question was not to inquire about his personal life, it was to measure his consistency of his rhetoric and the actions he imposes on public policy. Very good point, SpongeBob. Yeah, somebody made a point earlier that if somebody asked Mayor Rahm Emanuel which school in particular, what the name of the school his kids were going to, that would be personal information. If somebody asked what his children's names are, that would be personal information. But just asking whether you're going to send your children to public or private school, that's not to answer that question is not personal information. Okay. Let's see here. Reading through the comments, reading through the chat. Sinan, I didn't pronounce that right, I'm sure. Asks, do you know what the next video is going to be about? Want to give us a hint, maybe? Yeah, okay, I'll give you a hint. I don't know. This could change, but currently, of all the videos that are in the pipeline at the moment, the one that seems to be first in line is a video, and this is not important, but it's kind of fun. Is a video currently the next project up in line? It would be a video about the actress Alyssa Milano's proposed sex strike. That's all I'm gonna say. Ryan Rivas asks, do you feel accomplished whenever you finish a video? Of course, man. Of course. You bet. But it's also a good feeling starting a new one. Panalytica says, great video / format. Thanks, man. Or ma'am. I don't know if you're a boy or a girl. But thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Living in Furnace says, Alpha God by Hector Garcia. I don't know what that is. I read your comic, as you remember, but I don't know what you're referring to. Somebody said counter arguments is truly an American treasure here on CensorTube. All right. I understand it's easy to be pessimistic, guys, in general, as far as the platform itself, but I prefer to be optimistic. I'd like to think it can get better. I tend to believe it'll get worse. It'll get worse and worse and worse before it gets better. But I do believe eventually it will get better. Now, are there any questions or arguments concerning the video itself? We're just going to talk about that for another 15-20 minutes or so, and then we'll call it a night. I'll keep my eye out for as many good questions and arguments as I can, but if anybody comments in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Let's see here. Adler says, do you have other things besides the channel that you plan to work on? I think what you do here on YouTube is undeniably great, but have you planned on taking your work to the outside world? Well, Adler, YouTube is the second largest website on the internet, and it's the ultimate video sharing platform. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by outside world. I see the opportunities on YouTube as being limitless. But to answer your question, I would like to collaborate with other YouTubers. After all, this is a channel that makes arguments, and it's certainly not the only one on the internet doing that. Okay, here's a question from Mathieu. Did you use ideas brought up in the Leaving the Interview stream in the video? No, I don't think so. I'm not sure I understand the question. I think I do, and if I do, the answer's no. So Coffee Wind is asking how many videos are in the pipeline right now. I don't know. I don't know. A lot, but I couldn't give you an exact number. Any other questions or arguments concerning the video that we just watched? When should you leave an interview? Somebody says, we definitely need this kind of analysis to flesh out the divisiveness that's happening to the country. Yeah, well, any help we can get, right? I certainly don't mind doing my part. I'm really not interested in satisfying either side, so I hope that shows. Okay, any questions or arguments concerning the video itself? Somebody's asking if there are, do you have any projects of 11 Angry Men type coming up? The film is called 12 Angry Men, first of all. This person goes on to say those were very interesting and high quality. Yeah, I'm very glad you like them. Izzy over here. But no, there are not going to be any more videos made for the channel that discuss 12 Angry Men. That series is complete. It was 5 episodes. They were all produced in tandem, and that was a one and done. So that's it. There aren't going to be any more videos on 12 Angry Men. Frankly, I don't know what the hell else to say about 12 Angry Men after those 5 episodes I've already made. Okay, here. Here's a question from Alex. Why was that one section copyright claimed if you already had it in a previous video? Well, Alex, to answer your question, the video that was just streamed for you guys in this stream was uploaded to the channel yesterday, and it wasn't the official video. It was just sort of uploaded. It was uploaded so that members could view it and to test it out and see how it looked. But it was unfortunately, Channel 4 News demonetized it for using one of their interviews of Robert Downey Jr., and they blocked it worldwide for using clips from their interview of Jordan Peterson. So, frankly, I just didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to use the clips from the interview. Again, the video that you guys just watched, it was uploaded to the channel yesterday. It was not published. It was just uploaded. And Channel 4 News blocked it all over the world because it used clips from Jordan Peterson's interview on Channel 4. I didn't want to run a risk in this live stream. I didn't want to stream a clip from that interview and have this stream automatically shut down or something like that. I didn't want to run the risk. So that's why I took the clips out. Let's see here. Raptark says, Ben Shapiro assuming the intentions of his opponent was one of the worst things someone can do in a public engagement. I agree. And they rightfully are very prone to backfire. Yeah, Raptark, and I, of course, obviously agree with you. You're agreeing with me. Yeah, you know what? If you assume what somebody's intentions are, even if you're right, it's still not a quote-unquote good look. Let's see here. Harpia says, when someone presents what semantically is arguably an argument, but presents it in such a way that pragmatically it is only discourse. I'm sorry, I should have read that completely before I read it out loud. I don't know what you were saying there. Let's see here. Here's a comment from Fall Out Your Mom. You don't say. Fall Out Your Mom says, I don't think an interview has he says, I don't think an interviewer has the right to leave their own interview. You must be referring to the View. Unless things get absolutely out of control. Yeah, I agree with you, Fall Out Your Mom. It's one thing for an interviewee to leave an interview, but when the interview themselves leave, yeah, basically what you said. I don't have much to add. Let's see. Panalytica says, if I remember correctly, Panalytica says, if I remember correctly, BBC Guy, that's Andrew Neil, did rehash some old stuff that Shapiro had already covered in his article of all the mistakes he had made in the past. Yeah, fair enough. It's the only thing I have to add to that is that it's tough being a public figure, man. I mean, if you say something that's offensive or inflammatory or idiotic or just plain wrong, if you say it publicly, if you publish it on Twitter, say in a tweet, you can follow that up years, months, or even days later and say, I'm sorry I said that, I regret it, I take it back. But if it's out there, it's out there. And if people are not aware that you walked it back, or they don't care that you walked it back, you're still going to have to answer for it. Is it annoying? Yeah, but all I have to say is that it's hard being a public figure, man. It's hard. Certainly not easy. Let's see. Danny Sullivan says, if someone insults you rather passively, would you be wrong to call them out in an interview? If it persists, would it be okay to walk out? Well, referencing Robert Downey Jr.'s Channel 4 interview, to a certain extent, yes, it would be okay at a certain point. But it also depends on how you behave yourself, how exactly you how exactly you interact with the interviewer. Because let's say, for the sake of argument, Danny, that the interviewer does say something inappropriate or does behave inappropriately. Let's say the interviewer says something or does something that puts them in the wrong. How do you respond? Well, if you respond politely and gently, and if you try to be diplomatic about it, and then you walk out when it doesn't work, then you'll be much more sympathetic, and you'll have public opinion will be on your side. But if the interviewer behaves inappropriately and you respond by behaving inappropriately yourself, then you might not win public opinion to your side. In that case, the people who watch the interview, they're just going to see two people who are being mean to each other, and they're just going to throw up their hands and say, I don't know, it's a wash. They're both assholes. So it does depend, but that's a good question, Danny. And I'm glad you brought it up. SpongeBab says the Bruce Jenner discussion was bad from the start. He made a statement. That would be Jesse Lee Peterson. He made a statement that he was a man instead of challenging the interviewee's view on why he is not considered a female. Yeah, SpongeBab, I agree with you. Certainly Jesse Lee Peterson could have articulated himself better. And Stevie Bobby didn't have to walk out of there. So, yeah, I guess there's I guess we can criticize both sides. Let's see here. The stream has been going now for how long? Oh, about an hour and a half. Let's go for another 10 minutes. I'll keep my eye out for as many good. For those of you who are just tuned in recently, unfortunately you missed it. We just streamed the latest video that was produced for this channel. In this live stream, if you just tuned in 10 or 15 or 20 minutes ago, sorry, you missed it. That's what we're talking about. And if anyone has any questions or arguments concerning that video, make them known. I'll keep my eye out for the good ones. But if anyone comments in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Now, here's a comment from Michael. Michael says we've been streaming for 90 minutes now. Thanks, Mike. Prickly Biscuit says, when interviewing someone that treats the interview like a battle, they must somehow win. I get that impression from Ben. Would silence be an adequate tactic for the interviewer? Good question, Prickly Biscuit. If you watch the full interview that Shapiro gave on the BBC, you'll notice that Andrew Neil does a pretty good job of keeping his lips zipped. He doesn't, hey, Evariste, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. And hey, Gibran. Don't know how to pronounce your name either. If you go back and watch the full Ben Shapiro interview on the BBC, you'll notice that Andrew Neil often doesn't have much to... When Shapiro gets on a roll and starts talking a lot and quickly, you'll notice that most of those times, Andrew Neil doesn't have so much to say. He sort of just sits there, he looks down at his notes, and then he'll look back up at the camera. But he doesn't interrupt Ben Shapiro that much. Again, if you go back and watch the full interview, Andrew Neil does not interrupt Ben Shapiro that often, if at all. It was a very wise way of managing that particular interview, because Andrew Neil, he's been in this business a long time, and he must have known immediately that his guest was going on the offensive. So Mr. Neil went for the approach of just sitting back and letting Shapiro say what he was going to say, and not necessarily trying to shout him back, but just speaking whenever Shapiro was done speaking, and setting up the next question. Which, personally, I thought was a very wise way of conducting that interview. Now, somehow, some way, he gave Mr. Shapiro the impression that he was badly motivated. I don't know what on earth he could have done about that. But yeah, you'll notice that if you watch that full interview on the BBC. Hunter says, I think most people watching an interview can assume intention themselves. Yeah, Hunter, good point. People can make up their own minds, can't they? Hunter goes on to say, if it's obvious the interviewer is being rude, the interviewee has no need to point it out. The audience can figure it out. Well said, Hunter. And that is part of the thesis of the video. Very good point. The argument that's being made in the video, when should you leave an interview? The argument that is made in it is just what you said, man. Let the audience come to their own conclusions. Let public opinion decide who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Don't try to manipulate public opinion. Don't try to twist it or engineer it or do anything like that. People can make up their own minds, and no matter what you try to do about it, they're going to make up their own minds. Let's see here. Couple more questions or arguments, if you will. Anyone who comments in the super chat is guaranteed a reply. Here is a comment from Living in Furnace, who says, politics is not a sport. It's about functions of life and liberty. Very well said. Very well said. Here's a comment from a man whose name I cannot pronounce. It begins with an E and ends with Fariste. I'm so sorry, man. He says, shame on you. I am one of the first modern mathematicians. Oh, all right. Well, point taken. I'll look him up. Look you up. And then I'll know how to pronounce your name. Okay, we'll take a few more. We'll keep going for another 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. If anyone has anything to say in the super chat, you're guaranteed a reply. Let's see here. Here's a question. How would you push an interviewer away from an offensive mindset? Personally, I don't know. It's probably not possible, but it does depend on the personality of the interviewer. I know that's not very helpful, but it's true, and it's something worth keeping in mind. Panalytica says, thanks for the great content. I've been trying to find channels that cover both sides fairly, and there are so few. You might be the only one I know of. Well, Panalytica, I hope that's not true, and if it is, I hope it doesn't stay true for very long. But, but thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Fallout, your mom asks, how do you conduct research for your videos? Could you do a video on that? Probably, maybe, someday. Can't guarantee it, but perhaps. Alex says the video focused mostly on how leaving an interview affects the reputation of the interviewee instead of the quality of the statements said in the interview. Any thoughts on this? Well, Alex, I wouldn't say that the video did not focus on the quality of the statements. Because I don't think that's true. I think the video did focus heavily on the merits of what the people who left the interview had to say. Now, obviously, I think it would be fair to say that the I think it would be fair to say that the primary focus of the video was to see whether or not someone walking out of an interview would win public opinion to their side or lose public opinion. I think I wouldn't disagree with anyone who said that was the primary focus, but I would have to disagree that with anyone who thinks that the video wasn't concerned with the quality of the statements said in the interview. It was. I mean, if it wasn't, then how could it have made heads or tails of whether or not the person who walked out of the interview seemed justified or not? Well, those are my 2 cents. Thanks for your comment. Dakota says, what YouTuber would you want to collaborate with? Oh, I can't just pick one. I mean, hell, it's not just YouTubers, of course. You know, if Ben Shapiro himself wanted to make an argument on this channel, he'd be invited to. ContraPoints would be an outstanding, or Natalie Wynn. It would be outstanding having her make an argument on this channel. I don't know, any progressive commentators, any conservative political commentators, anyone who does fairly educational stuff, anyone who does manages history channels, stuff like that, anyone who's a musician who has an argument to be made about pop music or music in general. You see, I told you I couldn't pick one. How could I? That's a great question, though. Jason Fanning asks, didn't Krauss, Pompey, and Caesar make politics a sport? Good question. I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or not, but it sounds like one. And I don't have a good answer, Jason, unfortunately. But that's a good question. And I believe you've given us all something to think about. Or at least you've given some of us something to think about. Ryan, I wish I knew how to pronounce your name correctly. He or she says, fantastic video, CA. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. Thank you, Rivas. However you pronounce your name. Thank you. One more time. Thank you. Hey, Panalytica. You just became a member of the channel. Man, if I could give you a high five or a hug or just a simple handshake, I would. It's obviously impossible over the internet. But if I could, I would. Thank you, Panalytica. Welcome. Welcome to Counter Arguments. Glad to have you. Glad to have anyone who wants to be a part of this stuff. How could I not be? For a guy who loves to argue, anyone else who likes to argue is warmly welcome. 109 Rage asks, one more time, Panalytica. Welcome. 109 Rage asks, you said earlier Aristotle was one of your favorite philosophers. Anything specific about him that you like? Thoughts on other philosophers? Like, you know what? These are great questions, but I don't want to get hung up on philosophers at the moment because I wanted to stay focused on the latest video that we just streamed. I don't know how to express my opinion of Aristotle in a brief way. I don't know how to just say a little bit. But I think he was a remarkably principled man. He was a remarkably cynical man. And frankly, I find both of those characteristics admirable. I mean, will you settle for that, 109 Rage? I know that's not much of an answer. You did ask a good question, but a good answer would take an hour. So I'm sorry. I see Lime Green something says ContraPoint sounds like a perfect collab. Yeah, it does. Look, on the channel ContraPoints, arguments are made. So is she welcome on this channel to make an argument? You bet. And if anybody collaborated, if anybody was featured on this channel, the video would be produced just like all the others. You'd still have your bulletin boards and whiteboards and loose leaf paper and the clips and all that. The only difference is that the person featured would be speaking instead of me. Another new member. Arbitrary Renaissance. Man, that is a cool name. And I don't even know why. But that's just a really neat name. Arbitrary Renaissance. Man, they could copycatting Panalytica. Oh, sure, fine. Hey, Panalytica and Arbitrary Renaissance, congratulations. You guys now have a ripped piece of paper next to your name, and your name is in green. You're now members. Welcome to the channel. I'll say what I said to Panalytica to you, Arbitrary Renaissance. If I could give you a handshake or a high five or a hug or just a pat on the back, if I could, I would. Thank you for joining. Devin says your work is great. You speak in a clear and consistent manner and da-da-da-da-da. I don't like reading compliments. But I do want to show my appreciation. Devin Pallone says you speak in a clear and consistent manner and don't BS people when you don't understand something. Have some praise for your work. Well, thank you, Devin. Thank you. And look, if you think I'm setting a good example, then I hope it's followed. I don't know about you, but throughout my life, a lot of people have shown me a lot of good examples, and I have led by good examples, and I've tried to follow them. Ryan. Ryan. That's how you pronounce your name. R-I-O-N. It's pronounced Ryan. But don't worry. Also a he. All right, man. Well, Ryan, I'm glad that I know how to pronounce your name now, and thanks for the $2. I'm sorry it cost you anything to have to explain that to me, but I'm very grateful now that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Darker Apollo asks, do you have a live stream where we interview you at some point? Why you started the channel, when you started getting into arguments? Apollo, to answer your question, I really, as much as I can, I try to keep the focus away from me and on the arguments, because that's really what's important. I know, as a consequence of being the guy who's speaking and making the videos, that people are curious about me, but I'm going to be stubborn about this. Let's keep the focus on the arguments and not on anything else. Arbitrary Renaissance says, green suits me, and Panalytica is flexing. Hey guys, isn't this cool being members? Is it? Is it not? Again, I'm so glad you guys joined. I've never had someone become a member during a live stream before. I never quite saw that before. That was really neat. 109 Rage likes their name being in green as well. Here is Living in Furnace says a slightly lighter shade of green would be nicer. Yeah, Yeah, good point, Living Infernus, because it is kind of hard to see it in dark mode. Zombie Jesus, now that's a cool name. Zombie Jesus says, I was going to post a copy pasta, but I only get 50 CH. I don't know what that means. Okay, guys, I said the stream would end in 5 minutes about 15 minutes ago. So, frankly, by this point, the stream is about an hour and 45 minutes old. And this seems like a good time to wrap it up. I don't know how many of you stayed from beginning to end, but in case nobody is left from the beginning, the purpose of this stream was to discuss a new format. The incorrect answers format is being scrapped and replaced with a format called questions and answers, a more broad format that will feature videos that just focus on any arguments or any discussions that are presented in a format where people are asking questions and answering them. The latest video produced for this channel, unfortunately, when a trial version of it was uploaded, was copyright claimed. So when the officially completed version is uploaded to the channel, it will be claimed again, and those copyright claims will have to be disputed. And until they're resolved, the video will not be published. And I'm sorry that that's the case, but that's the case. For those of you who were here when that latest video produced for this channel was streamed, I thank you for watching that, and I thank you for your questions and for your arguments in support or challenging the video. And I'd like to thank Panalytica and Arbitrary Renaissance for joining the channel. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'd like to have another one very soon, perhaps this week, not even next week. I think there should be another stream this week. So, one more question from Mr. Trident. Would you be open to starting your own site so you can keep your videos up while YouTube can't touch you? You know what, Mr. Trident? That sounds like a nice idea in concept, but in reality, I'd rather have all the videos on this channel for two reasons. One, it's nice to have everything in one place. And two, when a video is uploaded to YouTube, it can be monetized and it can earn ad revenue. If it was uploaded to another website, it would not be monetized and it would not be earning ad revenue. So it sounds like a nice idea, and who knows, it might actually happen someday in the future, but it's certainly not in the works, and that's the reason why. So, thank you guys once again. Thank you for tuning in, for watching the video, for participating in the chat. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you continue doing well. Thank you for tuning in, and good night to you all. Godspeed.